The set was loud in the ordinary way film sets always are. The clatter of equipment, shouted cues, footsteps echoing off concrete floors. But there was nothing ordinary about the energy in the room. Because Bruce Lee was working, and when Bruce worked, the atmosphere changed. Not because he demanded silence, but because everyone instinctively paid closer attention. Every movement mattered. Every inch of distance mattered. That day, among the extras and stunt performers filling the background, was a young man still far from the legend he would become. Jackie Chan. Eager, focused, grateful just to be there. Absorbing everything with wide-eyed intensity. Jackie wasn't a star yet. He wasn't even close. He was a hard-working stuntman doing what stuntmen do. Falling, flying, getting back up, and hoping the camera never noticed the pain. Bruce was rehearsing a fight sequence. One of those scenes where speed is the illusion and control is the reality. And he moved the way he always did. Sharp but economical. Precise without hesitation. He wasn't throwing punches to look good. He was placing them to arrive exactly where they needed to be and stop exactly where they should. That control was what made him different. And it was also what made moments like this so rare. But rare doesn't mean impossible. Accidents don't announce themselves. They slip through tiny gaps in timing. And on that take, one gap was enough. As the action kicked off, Jackie rushed in on his cue, playing his part perfectly, committing fully the way young stuntmen do when they want to prove they belong. And Bruce turned at the same instant, faster than most people could process. So, his arm already in motion. The strike wasn't meant for Jackie. It was meant to stop short, to pass by, to sell danger without delivering it. But Jackie was half a step closer than expected, a fraction of a second ahead of the mark, and Bruce's hand connected. Not brutally, not wildly, but solid enough to matter. Jackie went down. The sound changed immediately. Not screaming, not chaos. Just that sudden, hollow silence that appears when everyone on set knows something has gone wrong. The director didn't even need to shout, "Cut." The scene died on its own. Jackie lay on the ground, stunned, clutching his head, the world spinning, and every eye in the room snapped toward Bruce, because this was the moment that defined who a man really was. Accidents reveal character faster than success ever can. Bruce froze for exactly one heartbeat, not in panic, but in assessment, and then he moved, not away from Jackie, not toward the camera, but straight to him. He dropped to his knees without hesitation, the star of the film suddenly irrelevant, his only focus the young man on the floor. Bruce cradled Jackie's head carefully, speaking to him softly, urgently, asking if he could hear him, if he could see clearly, if he was in pain. His hands, which seconds earlier had delivered a strike faster than most eyes could track, were now steady, gentle, precise, in an entirely different way. Jackie later said that before he even understood what had happened, before the pain fully registered, he felt Bruce's presence over him, close, protective, almost apologetic. Bruce didn't brush it off. He didn't blame timing or blocking. He didn't say, "That's stunt work." He kept repeating the same thing quietly. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." And those words mattered more than anything else, because in an industry where injuries were often treated as the cost of doing business, Bruce treated this one as personal. Someone called for ice. Someone else called for medical staff. Bruce waved them in, still holding Jackie, still talking to him. And when Jackie started crying, not from pain alone, but from shock and emotion, Bruce didn't pull away. He let him cry. He wiped his face. He kept apologizing. The room watched in disbelief, because this wasn't the reaction people expected from a man already becoming a global icon. They expected distance, authority, maybe impatience. What they saw instead was responsibility. 10 seconds had passed. Maybe less. But in those 10 seconds, Bruce Lee showed everyone something far more important than speed or power. He showed care. When Jackie was helped up, still shaken, Bruce stayed beside him, one arm around his shoulders, walking him off the set personally. Filming stopped. No one argued. No one complained. Bruce insisted Jackie rest, insisted he be checked, insisted he not be pressured to return. And when Jackie tried to wave it off, tried to be tough, tried to say he was fine, Bruce stopped him gently and told him something Jackie never forgot, that no shot, no scene, no film was worth a person's well-being. Later, when Jackie had recovered enough to sit, Bruce came to him again. Not as a star checking a box, but as a mentor speaking to someone he genuinely cared about. He apologized again. He told Jackie he admired his commitment, his fearlessness, but warned him about one thing, that eagerness must always be balanced with awareness. Because being brave doesn't mean being careless with your own safety. He told Jackie he admired his commitment because being brave doesn't mean being careless with your own safety. Jackie listened, not as a peer, but as a student, because in that moment, Bruce wasn't just teaching martial arts. He was teaching professionalism. He was teaching professionalism. What shocked the crew wasn't that Bruce had hit someone. Anyone who worked with real fight choreography knew accidents happened. What shocked them was how Bruce handled it. There was no ego, no defensiveness, no attempt to protect his image. Only accountability. And that accountability traveled fast. People talked about it quietly between takes, about how Bruce could have dismissed it, could have minimized it, but chose instead to own it fully. Years later, Jackie Chan would talk about that moment with deep emotion, not bitterness. He never framed himself as a victim. He framed himself as someone who learned something invaluable. He said that getting hit by Bruce Lee hurt, but being cared for by Bruce Lee changed him. It showed him what true mastery looked like, not domination, but responsibility. Not fearlessness, but compassion paired with control. You knew about dreams being that dreams moved quickly. Jackie would go on to build his entire philosophy of action cinema around that lesson. precision, safety, care for the people you work with. He became famous not just for spectacular stunts, but for insisting on rehearsals, protection, and respect for the human body. And whenever he spoke about Bruce, it wasn't just about skill. It was about character. Bruce Lee didn't accidentally hit Jackie Chan and reveal brutality. He revealed humanity. And that's why the reaction surprised everyone. Because in a world obsessed with strength, Bruce showed something rarer: the courage to care immediately, openly, and without pride getting in the way. After Jackie was taken off the floor, and the immediate panic dissolved into quiet concern, the set didn't return to normal for a long time. Because moments like that don't end when the injured person stands up. They linger, reshaping how everyone present understands risk, responsibility, and power. Bruce stayed nearby even after the medics finished checking Jackie, pacing slowly, eyes never fully leaving him, as if distance itself felt wrong. People noticed that Bruce didn't delegate care to assistants or producers. He didn't hand the situation off. He owned it completely, and in an industry where hierarchy often creates emotional distance, that ownership felt unusual, almost disarming. Jackie, still dizzy but conscious, kept trying to reassure everyone, insisting he was fine, trying to laugh it off the way young stuntmen often do when they're afraid admitting pain might cost them work. Bruce shut that down, gently but firmly. He told Jackie to sit. He told him to breathe. He told him not to minimize what happened. And the tone mattered. It wasn't scolding. It was protective. Bruce understood something Jackie didn't yet fully grasp: that the real danger in stunt work isn't the hit itself. It's the pressure to pretend the hit didn't matter. As the crew reset lights and cameras in the background, Bruce crouched beside Jackie and spoke quietly, explaining exactly what went wrong. Not to excuse himself, but to educate. He pointed out the timing error, the half step that closed the gap, the way speed magnifies even tiny misalignment. He told Jackie that skill without spatial awareness is incomplete, that enthusiasm without control becomes liability. And Jackie listened intently, because this wasn't a lecture delivered from above. It was a lesson shared from beside him. It was a lesson shared from beside him, eye to eye. That positioning mattered. Bruce wasn't towering over him. He was meeting him where he was. What many people on set later remembered wasn't the strike or even the injury, it was the shift in Bruce's demeanor. "You know I was coached by my dreams. You know I was coached by my dreams." He didn't retreat into stoicism. He didn't hide behind professionalism. He allowed concern to be visible. He allowed responsibility to be public. And in doing so, he quietly redefined what leadership looked like on a film set. Power, in Bruce's world, didn't excuse harm. It obligated care. When Jackie was cleared to return later, Bruce didn't rush him. He insisted on slower rehearsals. He adjusted spacing. He altered angles, so no one had to stand closer than necessary. And he personally walked Jackie through the revised choreography, step by step, checking in constantly, making sure Jackie felt safe before cameras ever rolled again. Some crew members were stunned by this level of involvement. Bruce could have let coordinators handle it. He chose not to. To him, responsibility didn't end when the injury stopped bleeding. Jackie would later say that in those moments, he stopped seeing Bruce Lee as a distant legend and started seeing him as a standard, not just of skill, but of conduct. Jackie noticed how Bruce never once implied that being hit was part of the job. He never framed it as unavoidable. He treated it as a failure of process that deserved correction. That idea planted itself deeply in Jackie's mind because it ran against the culture of the time, where stunt performers were often expected to endure silently and move on. Sir, with respect to what Boysaw was doing, as filming continued in the following days, something subtle but important changed. Stuntmen spoke up more. Rehearsals grew longer. Communication improved. People felt permitted to say, "That's too close," or "Let's reset that." And while no one announced this shift out loud, everyone knew where it came from. Bruce had made it clear that excellence did not require sacrifice of safety. And once that line was drawn by the most powerful presence on set, others felt empowered to respect it too. Jackie recovered fully, but the incident stayed with him. Years later, when he became famous for his own dangerous stunts, people often asked why he insisted on doing them himself, why he obsessed over rehearsal, why he demanded dozens of takes to perfect timing. Jackie always traced it back, in one way or another, to that moment. He learned that speed is merciless. The cameras don't care if you're ready. That responsibility lies with the person who controls the action. And above all, he learned that caring openly doesn't weaken authority, it strengthens it. What made Bruce's reaction so surprising wasn't just that he apologized. It was how thoroughly he rejected the myth of invincibility. Bruce never pretended he was above accidents. He didn't hide behind the idea that greatness excuses mistakes. Instead, he demonstrated that greatness is measured by how you respond when things go wrong. Anyone can look composed when everything works. Character shows itself when it doesn't. The irony is that this incident, which could have damaged Bruce's reputation if mishandled, actually deepened the respect people had for him. Crew members spoke about it for years, not as gossip, but as reference. "Remember how Bruce handled that," they'd say, when safety came up. He became not just the fastest man on set, but the most trustworthy. And trust in environments involving real physical risk is everything. Bruce never told this story publicly. He never used it as an example of his compassion. He didn't frame it as mentorship. To him, it was simply the correct response. He believed that martial arts without ethics were incomplete, that control over others means nothing without control over oneself. That belief ran through every part of his life, whether he was training students, working with Marines, or filming a fight scene. For Jackie, the lesson went even deeper. He realized that fame magnifies responsibility. That when you become the focal point of action, your decisions ripple outward, affecting dozens of people who trust you with their bodies. Jackie carried that awareness into his own career, famously building teams that trained obsessively, protected one another, and treated injuries as failures to learn from, not badges of honor. And whenever he spoke of Bruce, his voice softened, not with nostalgia, but with gratitude. The accident didn't create rivalry. It created lineage. In 10 seconds, Bruce Lee showed that mastery isn't just about how fast you can strike, how hard you can kick, or how unstoppable you appear on screen. It's about what you do when your power slips beyond intention. It's about whether you hide, deflect, or step forward and take responsibility without being asked. Bruce stepped forward. That's why this story endures, not because of the hit, but because of the aftermath. Because legends are easy to admire from a distance, but it's the moments of care, accountability, and restraint that make them worth following. Bruce Lee didn't just influence how people fought. He influenced how they worked, how they protected one another, and how they defined professionalism in a dangerous craft. And long after the camera stopped rolling, long after the bruises faded, that lesson remained intact. True strength is revealed not in impact, but in what you do immediately after.